Hello, everybody. I just thought I would do something I normally don't do, and I've decided to record a commentary while I play. So here is just going to be some footage of some computers fighting because I don't have a controller currently that works, so I've had to set up some jank settings to access the computer versus computer with my keyboard, so forgive me if you're expecting any kind of good gameplay here, but it's better than just a blank screen and I'm talking. So yeah. Let me just make sure that these settings are all good here. Let me just pick this, right? Yeah, what stage can we pick? Sure, whatever. I don't know how buggy this stage is going to be, but whatever, it's fine. So, I kind of just wanted to talk about Dragon Ball Budokai Tenkaichi 4, or whatever iteration it's going to be called. I can see the glitch, the graphics freaking out. But, I've seen a lot of videos, I guess, talking about this topic of, you know, what to expect, what we might see. And I just thought I would give my thoughts on a couple things, because I, believe it or not, despite my channel being mostly horror, I grew up with Dragon Ball. It was always one of my favorite shows, anime, growing up as a kid. I mean, I watched plenty of anime, not just Dragon Ball. I watched all Dragon Ball, Z, GT, Super, Dub, Sub, you know. I bought a lot of stuff, basically. So, it's something that really mattered in my childhood. So yeah. It might be surprising, but this game especially really, I guess, was one of those games I played a lot as a kid growing up. So, to start this off, I just kind of want to talk about kind of how this announcement kind of shocked me. I wasn't really expecting a whole lot from Dragon Ball games as a whole. I've kind of had, I don't want to say a falling out with a large majority of franchises in gaming. I've just kind of become, I guess, dispassionate with how a lot of modern games have been. I feel like a lot of cases are just been there, done that. Nearing my 30s, but, you know. I'm just watching a little bit here as I'm talking, so forgive me. Trying not to distract myself. But anyway. So, regarding what we can expect, I loved Dragon Ball Raging Blast 2 when it came out. The first Raging Blast was really good. It had a lot of problems with the combat. It felt kind of sluggish and slow. But Raging Blast 2 fixed a lot of those problems. And, at least in my mind, it was the closest thing that ever came to, like, a spiritual successor, I guess, to Budokai Tenkaichi. With how disastrous Ultimate Tenkaichi was and how bad it dropped the ball. And then, in my opinion, they released that horrible Battle of Z, which wasn't nearly as bad as Ultimate Tenkaichi, but it certainly was, I guess, a time period where Dragon Ball games weren't really in a good spot, I guess. I never really played Burst Limit, but, or I mean, I played the original Budokai games, I guess, for that matter, but I don't know. I didn't really have a PlayStation when it came out, or get a chance to play Burst Limit, but I bring this up because I would say my most enjoyed game before Raging Blast, I guess, was this game. And I was a big fan of the combat. And I would always play it with my brother, and, you know, we'd have fights, and, you know, it'd be kind of fun. as I'm sure a lot of people, and I've seen many of the videos talking about this, where a lot of people had the similar experience where they had a buddy or a friend or family member, or just some kids they knew from school that would come to their house and play the game, you know, stuff like that. So I don't think I'm obviously not unique in this. But certainly one of the more enjoyable aspects for me in a Dragon Ball fighting game is the combat system. In Budokai Tenkaichi 3, after playing the first one being really good, the second one greatly improved upon some of the faults of the first game. Not even about really the characters, just the core mechanics. More health bars, characters were more balanced, I think. Stage stuff, the music, the god tier music in Budokai Tenkaichi 2 was so good. Still to this day, I go back and listen to those tracks. Oh wow, they already beat them. It's crazy. But I guess I'll just pick fight again, whatever. Not that it matters, but yeah, so combat is something that is really important in this next game, that I've seen a lot of people talk about how they're worried that the next game is going to be a lot different, I guess. And I would expect some new features, but I feel like it would be a really dumb decision for a company to use the namesake of Budokai Tenkaichi and then just have it be completely different from the original games. So I don't really personally believe that it's going to be so radically different. Although I would like some maybe features from Raging Blast too, because some of those features are really good. Like, you know, like, hold on. Got a text, 1 second. Okay, sorry. I'm losing focus here, forgive me. This is kind of impromptu, so I'm kind of just trying to think about how to word things. But I really want some kind of Budokai or Raging Blast 2 mechanics to be in this game. The Ascension thing, I don't recall being in this game. The visuals obviously are just a given, but from what I've seen of the teaser, it looks pretty solid. Again, it's kind of hard to judge the full game, obviously, because it's not out. It's just a teaser, so obviously I'm going to be a little bit more reserved in judging a game that's not even out yet. So my speculation is going to be a lot more tame, I guess. But this isn't just a speculation video, more just kind of talking about things. Obviously, I want a good combat system, so that's the first point. The second thing I hear people talking about is the roster size, and this is something personally that I've seen that's kind of been bugging me, I guess, in the air quote community, because obviously with the hype, I've seen tons of videos talking about, you know, what characters we might expect, the roster size, speculation. I mean, even after Budokai Tenkaichi 3 came out, I remember seeing YouTube videos of people talking about wishlist characters, and, you know, this is nothing new. But there is a common theme that I see now versus then, and it's something that I really want to call out because of how bad it is. I have seen a handful of videos, and I'm not going to name drop any channels because I don't want to really, you know, hurt anybody's feelings or something. But there's this idea that goes around that's basically like, you know, we shouldn't expect a lot of characters, or we shouldn't expect this because there's no way insert company wouldn't do this nowadays because that's just the way things are. You know, the company is going to have full of DLC, and it's gonna, you know, they're gonna lock a whole roster full of characters, a chunk behind a paywall, and you know, you're gonna see stuff like this where people are just very unoptimistic about the the decision-making behind this game. And I would like to just bring something to attention, or really just kind of talk about a point that I've always kind of hung on to, was that this really bugs me because I feel like the response or the belief to this should really be a more critical. Like, being critical is fine, but just basically just lying down and accepting that it's just the way it is. That, you know, oh, you know, there's not going to be a ton of characters in the game because it's just the way it is. And they're not going to do this because it's just the way it is. It's just modern gaming. And I feel like this is a very dangerous thing to be talking about. Well, not like dangerous, really, but it's more destructive, I guess, to a gaming's development. And, you know, with that in mind, it's just a case of because the thing is, this game, at least from what we understand, is in early development, right? And so, at least in my opinion, I believe they're going to be listening to feedback and the response, which is, at least in my opinion, I'm expecting that maybe that's why they released the trailer early, to kind of gauge hype. It's really not, in my opinion, a good idea to be going around saying, you know, this isn't going to happen because it's just not a good idea. And, you know, it's not a good idea, and it's not likely because it's just the way it is. If we start pushing this idea out there that, you know, being lazy and not taking your time with a game is acceptable, like if we just accept that and parrot that and talk like, oh, that's the way it is, then these devs are going to see that, and then they're definitely not going to, you know, they're just going to, they're going to be like, okay, everybody accepts that this is just a thing, and that pretty much just gives them an entry to basically just do that thing. You know what I mean? So, like, we don't really want to be talking as if we've just accepted that things in modern gaming are bad, because then everybody's just, you know, the developers are just going to kind of not really care about feedback, and they're just going to develop that game with that mindset in mind, that everybody just accepts it so we can get away with it, basically. Kind of just a small thing, but it's something I really have just been seeing, and it's a narrative that I really want to just criticize publicly, because I don't see a lot of people really talking about it. Now, every game, I believe, at least in my opinion, I think, minus the super characters, I find it really hard to believe that they would show a trailer with Super Saiyan 4 Goku in it and not have any GT characters. Now, yes, I like GT, but I'm not a diehard GT fan, okay? I'm not going to sit here and go to bat for the entirety of GT, because there's a lot wrong with it. That being said, and don't get me wrong, I like GT more than Super, but I'm not going to get into that. But, you know, there seems to be this weird, and I've noticed this, there seems to be this weird hate mindset for GT where a lot of people just straight up don't want to include it at all. And it's not a mindset that I really understand, unless it's just coming from trolls. I'll see a lot of, and I've seen this in the past more so, maybe it's not as prevalent now, since a lot of YouTubers have kind of talked about GT and its development more in depth, so I feel like maybe that opinion has kind of died down a bit, but there is maybe a minority group of people in number that talk as if GT shouldn't be in this game, and just to critique that, I don't really think they would show GT in the teaser and reference it and not have him in the game. Now, I'm not saying it's impossible that that's not the case, but I really don't think with Xenoverse 1 and 2 having GT, with Fighters having GT in it, I don't see this opinion really being true when it comes to this game. I don't really see no GT happening. But I feel like most of the people that say that are just trolls and they're just trying to rile people up. But it's something I want to talk about because I kind of just want to talk about everything that I've seen. Now, in terms of characters I want to see that are new to the franchise, I really want to see lesser known characters, maybe some inclusion of more Dragon Ball characters. I definitely want to see the return of Dragon Ball characters and GT characters. Dragon Ball especially doesn't get any real notoriety, it seems, anymore, which is a damn shame, because Dragon Ball is basically the foundation which Dragon Ball Z sits upon. I even find it wild that many people today still haven't even seen it. But, yeah, I mean, I would like to see really just a collection of characters. I'm not really picky about anybody, but I am more so picky about balance. And one of the things that, especially in older Dragon Ball games, is that some characters had no viability just because of who they were. Like, you know, make no mistake, playing as Hercule is funny, but I feel like balance should be a lot more prioritized than just, oh, this character is just a gag character. I want every character to have a play style and be viable. Now, that's easier said than done if I want a larger cast, and I understand that. It's not going to be easy. But I feel like in Raging Blast 2, for the large part, yeah, a character might not be great, but they all felt like they did something. At least in my opinion. So I really want to see characters balanced more for fun rather than, oh, this character just mops the floor with insert character. Even if it's realistic to the show, I would just prefer personally that if I really wanted to, I could play as Cyberman and I could just, you know, really mess up Omega Shenron, because I just find that fun. Lastly, I want to talk about, I think, the most important thing, other than really the balance, but it's the story mode. I think that Raging Blast 2 would have been a lot more successful had they just had an actual story mode like Raging Blast 1 instead of the Galaxy mode, which was, in my opinion, really kind of lame. If anybody here remembers the near-death start battles, yeah, the average player might not be able to, you know, do that mission without trouble, but, and this is kind of a brag, but, you know, once you've played it hours, I mean, yeah, you could 1v5 an entire cast with 1 point of health. That is something that I eventually grew in skill to be able to do, but most people aren't going to want to sit there and trial and error and practice to get that good, because by that point, I feel like many people might be playing other games. At least in terms of the casual fans. They're not going to go through all that. So, the only other thing I really want to talk about, I guess, is the music. The music in Dragon Ball games usually is very good. I don't mind the inclusion of anime audio tracks. Those are cool. But I feel like after hearing Fighter's soundtrack, like, you know, I mean, come on. If you've heard West City in Fighters, absolute fire. So I'm really I mean, obviously, I'm hoping they go out all out on the soundtrack. I'm having trouble speaking, forgive me. But in recent times, I feel like that's not really a concern, so just something I wanted to bring up. Other than that, I know this video is kind of weird and I'm kind of rambling a bit, but I kind of really just wanted to address some of the points that I've been hearing and kind of the, I guess, mindset of the air quote community, the Dragon Ball community, because I feel like going around and just accepting bad things just really isn't what Dragon Ball fans, Budokai Tenkaichi, and of the video game series and show in general, as a, let's try and avoid that, is what I'm saying. We should be positive, we should be critical, and we should always hope for the best, but prepare for the worst, because we might end up with another Ultimate Tenkaichi, which I'd be very disappointed if I waited that long for a game like that, but you never know. So anyway, thanks everybody for watching. I'm going to try to post more often. I've kind of been going through some stuff as of late. My health hasn't been that great, and I've been kind of busy, so forgive me. I'll try to upload more Pokemon, because that's my plan, and then maybe some Minecraft, and then maybe back to some Resident Evil after that. But thanks everybody for watching. I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye.